Welcome to Save Our Sleep. Tizzie and the Save Our Sleep team believe it's every child's right to receive comfort, a parent's right to demonstrate love, and everyone's right to a full night of sleep. This podcast is not a medical or scientific volume, but a collection of tried and tested solutions and tips based on my many years of experience with babies and young children. Its main purpose is to help parents understand and avoid sleep problems in young babies and toddlers.
We'd like to recognise the Wadawurrung people who are the traditional owners of this region, which Tizzie and myself live and are recording today's podcast on. We acknowledge and respect that they have taken care of this land and water and raised children in this nation for over an extraordinary 70,000 years. The Save Our Sleep podcast is dedicated to helping you prevent and solve sleep problems while having some fun along the way. We endeavour to discuss all things family related, starting from pre-conception all the way through to an adult child leaving home and beyond. Some topics may be triggering. If you find this is the case, please reach out to your or your child's health nurse or general practitioner.
Welcome to Save Our Sleep, episode number 8. Now, when this goes to air, I was just trying to work it out, because episode 5 will go to air on Sunday, which is Mother's Day. And by the time this one goes to air, you might have had your baby.
I might have had the baba. Woohoo.
So we may or may not be having a baby in the house. Who knows?
I might be calling you from home instead of sitting in the studio in an absolute slumber.
Well,
or maybe I won't be. Maybe I'll be in here with Bubba because
I told you already, I'm having your baby. I'm taking it from you. In fact, I want you to move into my house.
I know you do.
Okay, so let's talk about let's talk a minute about our week. Like, have you had a good week?
Yes, I have had a good week. It's been very hectic and busy, lots of appointments, scans and things, and we are finally encroaching on renovating our third bedroom. We're going to move the twins into the third room and the baby into the twins' room, and so lots of painting and ripping up carpet and all that.
Hold on, so you're moving the
stuff.
Twins?
Yes.
And the baby's taking the twins' room?
Yes.
Ooh, it says not to do that in the book.
I know, it's really controversial and I feel really bad because it really is.
But your children are older. They understand.
Yeah.
They're not 2-year-olds. They're not 19 months old. They're not 19-month-old babies. In fact, I think it's a really good age gap and I think you're going to absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the age gap too. And I'm making a point of not putting the baby's going to sleep in with us to start with, but baby won't go straight into the boys' room. So I'm hoping they won't see that association that they're being booted for the baby. It's more we're moving them to a big boy room, and then a few weeks later baby's going to come home and sleep in our room with us before he goes into the baby room.
We were talking before about in one of the last episodes we were talking about how you kind of felt after you had the boys you felt a bit cheated and you wanted to have another baby and it's taken you a long time to have it.
Yes.
But like, I look back, I think I was the same. I had Dara. Dara was my 13th pregnancy. He was my first baby that was cooked long enough to actually come home from hospital. But I look back, I wish I could change stuff. Like, I think I was just I wanted to carry a baby full term and I feel like I didn't think I had.
Yes.
And then I actually lost 2 babies between Dara and Cillian. But then Dara was like about 21 months when I had Cillian, so it's all a blur. But poor Dara, I must have just been focusing on trying to have a baby.
Yeah, I can.
And then there was a massive gap before I had Kieran.
Yes,
and that was a really good gap. And I think you're going to really enjoy the gap, is what I'm saying. Now, beds. Have you worked out beds yet? You have, haven't you? Except I was just yelling about my husband who hasn't put the mini crib into the van.
So I think it's in your bedding guide or book or potentially both, when you talk about in particular mattresses, and all of us mums get so excited and we go out and buy the pretty cots, and I did exactly that and I got myself this gorgeous oval shaped timber cot for the twins, and it came with the mattress.
You got 2 of them.
I did get 2 of them. Come this pregnancy, I realised that the mattress, of course, is so much more important than what the cot looks like.
Can I ask you a question? and this is a legit question. I cannot remember the answer. Okay. A lot of those oval cots we have found, including mine. So I had beautiful oval cots. It was smaller and then it grew bigger. I think yours is a different brand,
but it's
the
a
same.
different brand. Yeah.
But my mattresses went mouldy. Have your mattresses gone mouldy?
Yes, sorry, Bob. They did go mouldy.
Oh, why?
Yeah.
What is it? And I thought maybe it was because the base of the cot was solid.
Timber.
And then there's this big thing at the moment because this particular cot company are recalling all their cots because the cots are going mouldy. And then someone said, we're in Victoria, we'll be fine. But then I read on their Facebook page that someone in Warrnambool's mattress and cots gone mouldy from the same brand. Like, can everybody, like, I don't know, it's really...
Yeah, there's something about them. Surely it's not the round shape, but something about
the mattresses are foam, aren't they?
Or foam, I'm not sure.
But back to you. So you're going to borrow a mini crib off me?
From Tizzie. How lucky. The perks of doing a podcast with Tizzie Hall is I get to borrow a mini crib and a cot.
Can I just blow your trumpet? No, it's not the perks of doing a podcast with Tizzie Hall. No, it's not. It's the perks of me looking after my clients. I have got other clients. I've got one mum, I think she was going to the snow or something, and she was... I don't know what it was, and she was going home to England or something, and she didn't have a cot and she didn't know whether to get a cot. And in the end, I lent her a mini crib. And then you said you knew other people who I said I'd lent the mini crib to. So blow your trumpet. I look after all my clients, and people sometimes come down on holidays. You're a client as well as a friend, as well as a mum, as well as a mother of the baby that I'm going to steal off you. Imagine if I do. But I really look after my clients.
Well, before I knew you personally, and I was just popping into the shop, you lent me a bunch of blankets to try your blankets.
Well, there you go.
So, you very generous person, Tizzie Hall.
Anyhow, so I'm lending you the mini crib, and then when you have your then for the big cot, I'm hoping that you're going to use my beautiful retro cot. Now, Nathan is concerned about it because it was a seconds, and he's like, what happens if it's, if the boys damage it, the big boys, And I'm like, yeah, but it's probably more likely to get damaged stacked away at work. So,
thanks.
And it's, I want it to be you. No, you won't damage it, but I don't know. I don't even know why I said that.
Feel
but
nice
anyway.
To feel used,
okay. I have something that I wanted to share.
Sure.
That I think is, it's a bit controversial in my head. Is that even a thing? Can it be controversial in your own head?
Of course, two voices.
Since I've never really been into podcasts, and since I've been into making my own podcasts, I have started looking at other podcasts, and at looking at other podcasts, I've come across a few, and some of them I really, really like. Yes. Like there's one called Postcards from Midlife, and it's about me. It's about my age. It's about menopause. It's really interesting, and it's about how I've got teenage children who are getting lots of hormones, but then I'm losing hormones because soon I'm going to be going. It's perimenopause.
Yeah.
Anyhow, and then I'm like, I can't tell people how much I like it because then they'll download it and then it'll put me down on the list, So that's a bit. But the one I listened to this week, which made me feel really good, was ABC Conversation. So it's a blue and green look.
It's a Ripper podcast,
I actually said to Zoe I was going to talk about it today, and I said to her, have a listen. So it's got Maggie Dent in it, and it was on the 4th of May 2022, so yesterday. Today is the 5th of May when we're recording, and it's got Maggie Dent, and it talks about helping teenage boys become good men. Now, that I listened to it, and they kept referring to sleep and how everything goes wrong when they don't sleep, and everything goes wrong if the screens are in their bedroom, and it's and it kept talking about how important sleep is. If they're not sleeping properly, they can't do schoolwork properly. They can't do their exams properly. And it was just made me feel so good that I gave my babies, my children, from day one, the skill of sleep.
Yes.
And so did you.
Yes.
When you found Save Our Sleep.
But close to.
It made me feel like a really good parent. So if anyone's interested, it's The Conversation by ABC, The Conversation. Maggie Dent, is she always on it?
No, she's a guest. She actually has her own podcast, I believe.
Oh, well, don't say what it is or she'll put me down the list.
But she's fantastic, and she's, in particular, an expert in boys.
Oh, talking about
boys.
podcasts for a minute. Yeah. There's this man who does podcasts, and he constantly tells people, don't listen to my book. Don't look at my book. I'm childless. I'm unqualified. I'm uneducated.
Don't
I'm
listen
childless.
to his book or
my
your,
book.
Your book.
Don't read my book. I'm childless. I'm unqualified. I don't know what I'm talking about, you know. And I find it really weird that people have to put down someone else to make themselves feel good.
Absolutely.
He comes to my children's school and talks, which I find really interesting. I want to go there with my children and stand in the front thing and make them make loads of noise and go, see, I have got children. But anyway, but I don't know whether it's me or whether, because I kind of, obviously I'm not too fond of him when he's so horrible about me. But he just makes out he's this perfect parent. And I find it really weird. I heard him on an ad on the radio earlier, and I just think, I'm not a perfect parent. I'd love to be as perfect as him. Now I am being a bit rude, but it's bizarre
no such thing
that
as a perfect parent.
That he just is so perfect. Oh, okay, let's move let's move on. Okay, today we're going to talk about episode 8. We're going to talk about
things affecting sleep and settling. So thanks to you, Tizzie. You've given us a beautiful chapter listing a bunch of different things that might affect your baby's ability to fall asleep or stay asleep. So can we... Maybe, would you like me to just go through the topics here today, or how are you feeling like you want to approach this topic?
I think we just go through the topics. So
number 1 you've got here is breast refusal, which is something that I think a very vast majority of mums come across at some stage. And I did with Otto, it was bottle refusal. And it probably had a different cause and a different effect.
So bottle refusal and breast refusal both would affect sleep and settling. So it's interesting that it's at the very start of the chapter, because when you talk about sleep and settling, I would have thought we would have talked about other stuff first, but obviously that's where the publisher wanted it, so let's jump straight into it. So breast refusal. So when we talk about breast refusal, there can be lots of different reasons for it.
Yes.
It's when, your breast, when I think of breast refusal, I think of when you have a baby who's breastfeeding happily. So they're breastfeeding, only breastfeeding, not bottle feeding.
Not a problem. Yep.
Breastfeeding happily. They have how many feeds a day, everything's going well. And then one day you get up and they just won't get on the breast. Now that can be for lots of reasons. It can be because they're sick. It can be, sometimes exercise can cause it. So, a vet once said to me about milk, you don't see cows running around the fields. In order to produce milk, we need to rest. And some mums will go out and do lots and lots of exercise, and then their babies don't get a good enough quantity of milk.
Yeah, sure.
They're babies for such a short amount of time. There's 2 thoughts there. Do you exercise to feel good about yourself and to feel... and exercise produces certain hormones that make people feel good.
Yeah, of course.
But then, if you exercise to more than a light, short walk or a little swim, or not a short walk, a calm walk, not what's opposite to brisk, a slow walk, with your baby, not an exercise walk, not like a fast walk. What's the word we're looking for?
Stroll.
A stroll. So if you stroll with your baby, that's exercise. That's not going to affect your milk. But if you go out and do a fast walk, or you run, or you do,
sweating, essentially,
you create this hormone which can actually be on your skin and stuff, and the babies don't like it. And the taste of your milk can change. Now, you'll have to go to Dr. Google, which you're not really supposed to do, and look into it, but it can affect your baby. So if you always exercise and your baby always takes a breast and there's never an issue, don't worry about it. And if your baby sleeps really well at night and sleeps during the day, don't worry about exercise. You've got to remember the people that come to me are the people whose babies aren't sleeping. So I'm going to see the mums whose exercise and then it does affect the milk, not the mums who exercise and it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing that can cause breast refusal, I would say, is starting exercise. Starting exercise, exercising, that can cause breast refusal because the taste of your milk can change, the texture, the quality of your milk can change. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is if a lot of mums mistakenly, when they go for the 6-week check, they often, get, what are you going to do for contraception? Now, I'm not medical, but my interpretation is that they think if you're breastfeeding, that gives you a certain amount of contraception, right? Then, if you take the mini pill, that gives you a certain amount of contraception. Neither gives you full contraception, right? So, but if you take them both, it's like they think 50% and 50% makes 100%, or maybe 80% and 20%. But it might not add up perfectly. So even on the mini pill, or while breastfeeding, or on the mini pill and breastfeeding, you can still get pregnant. So I do not see the reason for taking the mini pill, because the mini pill, 6 weeks after taking the mini pill or getting an implant in your arm or having the coil fitted or whatever you choose, seems to cause babies to stop drinking your milk. Again, I don't see the mums who are on the mini pill and have no problems. Okay, so I wouldn't go there. I think your babies are so little. Anyhow, who has time for the hanky-panky when you've got a newborn baby that you're breastfeeding
that is
at night?
The question.
Okay. But
who has energy for that?
The mini pill contraception can cause breast refusal. Right?
Okay,
so now, what happens if you're having breast refusal? Things like viruses, if the mum's sick, can change your mum's milk, and that can cause breast refusal. So what happens if you have breast refusal? Well, if you have breast refusal, it's very important that if your baby is totally refusing the breast, that you express so that you keep up your milk supply.
Of course.
Because, and then you can't let your baby go too long without any breast milk. So you really need to contact the Australian Breastfeeding Association or your GP or a lactation consultant. If your baby is not feeding for more than 2 feeds in a row when you're on a routine, so if you get your baby up at 7 o'clock in the morning and your baby refuses to feed. Now, if your baby fed at 5 o'clock in the morning, they would feed at 5 o'clock in the morning, their tummy would be empty. So let's say you've put your baby down, you've done a dream feed at 10:30, and now your baby has slept till 5 a.m. And you've picked your baby up at 5 a.m. and your baby's tummy is like empty at 5 a.m. and they fill their tummy till full, right? So you've breastfed them till full. You picture that baby waking up at 7 a.m. You're going to wake it. So you're going to wake that baby up at 7 a.m. for a feed, right? Now, let's pretend you could see how much milk your baby got from the breast, right? So let's say your baby got 180 mils from the breast. One day, somebody is going to work out a way to measure the milk. Someone's going to, they will. So your baby takes 180 mils from the breast. Whatever, both, either, whatever, right? Then at 7 a.m., your baby has only digested 50 mils because it's been asleep, right? And it's only digested 50 mils, right? At 7 a.m., your baby will, I would say, get your baby up at 7 and delay the feed a little bit towards the end of the feed time. So if you normally feed your baby at 7 a.m. and your baby finishes the feed at 7:25 a.m., then start feeding your baby at like 7:15. If you normally get we're talking about a little baby, a baby like under 10 weeks, If you normally get your baby up at 7 a.m. and they finish feeding at 7:40 a.m., then I'd say start that feed at about 7:20 a.m., right? So then you would only expect your baby to take what's been digested. That might be 50 or 60 mils. Now, this contradicts the fact that I say you should always have an empty tummy when you feed your baby, or you're going to put undigested milk in on top of digested milk. In these circumstances, this is about getting your baby sleeping through the night. It's about teaching your baby a routine. It's about building your milk supply. It's okay.
And it's most likely a 1 or 2 of,
And it's a once a day, okay? So then at 7:20, 7:40, whatever time when you finish the feed, your baby is as full as they would have been if you had start, if you hadn't fed at 5 a.m.
And you go
and they'd
to
had a
full feed.
full 180 mils
Yes.
at 7 a.m.
Yep.
So a lot of people worry and they think, oh, well, my baby fed at 5 a.m. and then it only took a couple of minutes, or it only took 50 mils at 7. It's going to be starving by 11. No, because it's as full as it was. Right, okay?
Yeah.
So now, but if your baby refused the feed at 7 a.m.,
Yes.
we'd say, okay, try and get to 11 a.m. But if your baby refused the feed at 11 a.m., now with 7 a.m., if your baby refuses the feed, once off, try and express, even if you have to hand express, okay? If you cannot get to 11 because you're engorged or you're uncomfortable, maybe get your baby up early for their sleep and feed them. It's a once off. If you can get to 11, so first of all, I would try and express the 7 a.m. feed. If you cannot express the 7 a.m. feed, try and get as close to 11 as you can. If you can't get to 11, feed your baby early. If you get to 11 and your baby refuses to feed, you need to seek medical advice.
Sure.
You need to work out why your baby's refusing the feeds. If you know that you got your period the day before, or if you feel you've got a bit of spotting and you're going to get your period, I call them painters. And the kids are doing sex education at school. Sorry to go off subject.
Good.
No, they've coming home with all this stuff,
Yes.
including talking about that.
Yes.
And it's like Nathan is learning all these words and he keeps saying stuff. And I'm thinking, can you stop already? I've never been comfortable talking about stuff like that. I went to an all-girls school. And it's really kind of upsetting me. And then I said to Nathan, he's going, I think you're getting your period. And then I'm going, we've been married. I don't know, we've been together forever.
Yeah.
He's never. And I said to him, I don't even call it that. I call it the painters. And why are you... And then a few days later he said to me something about the painters. I was just like, oh my God.
Wow, it's really absorbing.
No,
all
it's
this
all
stuff.
it's all the school. Anyway, so if you know that you're about to get your painters or you got your painters the day before,
Yes. That can affect it too.
then
I
you
read
know why.
that,
But you
yeah.
still can't just say, oh, that's why my baby's not feeding. I'm just going to ignore the fact that my baby's not feeding.
Sure.
If your baby
get
isn't
on top
feeding,
of
there
it.
could be something wrong with the baby
Sure.
as well.
Yeah.
So you need to talk to your GP, lactation consultant,
Yeah.
even nurse on call. Work out
Yeah.
why baby isn't feeding.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
that's important.
And can I just say too, don't go straight into stress mode, because baby might miss 2 feeds for some reason. They're just not well, they're getting a cold or something like that. And then the third attempt, they're back to normal. So babies can pick up on your energy and
Exactly.
and so can your breast milk, I suspect, and production of, and so can everyone else in your family. So it's so hard when you're a new mother. You are so in that moment that you feel like whatever is happening now is going to happen for the next 2 years. Your baby's never going to feed again.
There's
So-
a real
Yeah.
balancing act between sitting back and waiting and seeing what happens and actually responding and running to the GP
Sure.
and getting medical
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
It would depend on the age of your baby. It
Yeah.
would depend on, of course, take your baby's temperature.
Yeah.
It would depend on the age of the baby. It would depend on the size of your baby. It would
Yes.
depend on, wet nappies. There is all this other stuff, but if you call nurse and call, they'll say, when did your baby last feed? Did they feed during the night? Have they got
They'll
wet
ask
nappies?
about wet nappies.
Wet
and that sort of
nappies.
thing.
How you know if your baby has a wet nappy, especially, I use Pampers nappies. It's the only nappies I use. You can never tell if they're wet. I say use Pampers. You only have to change them once in 24 hours.
Okay.
And I don't normally promote or mention products, and you can't really get them in Australia.
Okay.
But, I like the idea of using environmentally friendly nappies.
Yes.
As a working mum, love the idea, tried to do it. Was out of my
I'm
or-
attempting this.
I'll
I'll be
attempt
attempting it
and
this
then
one. Yeah.
but then it's
But
then
not exclusively. I think overnight I'll be using just.
yeah, but then you've got the whole washing machine, water. In London they used to come and pick them up. You'd put your disposable nappies on the doorstep, and it's that's a whole topic, and we won't go
It
off
is.
on the.
But just quickly, if you're only changing once every 24 hours, that's a pretty good. That's a pretty eco-friendly nappy there.
back to
Yes.
nappy. Wet.
And stressing about.
Has your baby wet the nappy? The easiest thing to do is,
yes.
maybe this is how you tell how much breast milk went in.
Yeah.
You take the dry nappy and put it on the kitchen scales.
Anyway.
In a okay, so let's put a dry nappy in a sterile plastic bag on the kitchen scales, and then let's put a taken off the baby nappy that doesn't look wet at all
Yep.
in a sterile plastic bag
Great idea.
on the kitchen scales.
Great
Talking
idea.
of sterile plastic bags, did you know this? Here's a tip, okay?
Yes.
So when I was in special care baby unit and I was expressing and I was going out and buying
special baby bottle sealed bags for breast milk, right?
Yeah.
They said to me, oh, don't go out and buy special ones. Just go to the supermarket. All the plastic bags that come in a cardboard box in the supermarket are sterile.
Well, because you put food in them. So
yeah,
that makes
and so you don't need to go and buy special baby ones. And then the other tip they gave me was, so the snap lock bags.
Yes.
So you can buy the little snap lock bags at the supermarket.
Yes.
You don't need to know how much is in them, because when you take it out of the bottle that you've just expressed and you put it in the snap lock bag. Well, actually, hold on, let's wind back. Look at the 30 mils in the bottle, or the 50 or the gallon that I got, because I'm a dairy cow. Put it in the snap lock bag. No, sorry. Write on the snap lock bag how much you're putting in before you put it in the bag. Yep. Otherwise, you can't write it.
Makes sense.
Then, did you know if you store them flat, it works so much better in your freezer?
Of course,
if you put all these bags like this, and I always double bag just in case they got a hole.
Yeah. Love it.
So there's a snap lock bag tip with breastfeeding.
Thank you for that, Tizzie Hall. With
now,
the tips there. We're not going to get through this whole chapter.
No, of course we're not. We're doing topics.
Yep.
We're not planning to get through the whole chapter. We're planning to... If we were going to get through the whole chapter, we would sit here and we would read the chapter from start to finish.
Yeah.
The idea of the podcast is to help mums with older children, help mums with younger children, talk at the beginning, which gives people insight with older children, and to dig into behind the topics in the book. Now, I'm just looking to see what Tizzie Hall says. Something about, if your breast milk comes 48 hours, if your painters come, it takes for the milk to come good. But right, let's move on to winding.
All right.
We have, I think, 2 different tales of thought on winding.
Well, no, I'm very, very intrigued. So my sister-in-law recently had a beautiful girl, and she was advised by her midwife or her maternal child health nurse not to bother winding. I had the very quickest little Google this morning before I came into record today, and there were some studies showing, and I think they were from around 2019, not so much showing that you don't have to, but that there's some studies saying there's no reason why baby can't burp on their own, same as you and I. And in particular, there was no difference in one study between a burped baby and a not burped baby, and them, getting, I hate that word, developing colic, which is, of course,
But so you see, my argument would be, is that a baby on a routine or a baby not on a routine? Is that a baby who's bottle fed? Is that a baby who's breastfed?
There's so many factors.
Did they get all of these, is it the same baby? And then how do they know? How do these, you can get studies to kind of tell you anything, because how does the baby, or all the babies lying down flat after a feed, or all the babies breastfeeding in the same position? So what we know about wind is, how a baby, I don't know, can I show you with we can't show you with a bottle, but we can maybe show our YouTubers with a bottle. But the baby, it's not like, you don't have your stomach, and then if you picture the stomach, and then you don't have a tube coming straight up, and it's like if you get all these bubbles in the stomach, right? And then all the bubbles aren't going to sit at the top, and then they're not going to go up the tube and the burp comes up, because that's not the shape of the stomach. There's a tube that goes down into the stomach, and I'm trying to describe it in a way that people listening will understand, but if you Google the shape of the stomach, there's what's the tube? The esophagus comes down into the stomach, and then the esophagus doesn't come into the top of the stomach, it sort of comes in and the stomach bulges up the side of it.
Okay, yes.
So the wind can go up and be up the side of the tummy. So if you're holding your baby dead straight, or your baby's flat on their back, the wind is the bubbles. So the wind is bubbles that they've taken while they're feeding, right? So those bubbles can go up and be in that kind of bubble at the top of the stomach, Then no matter how much you sit there and tap the baby's back, and they're never going to come up because you've got the baby straight. Okay. So I get my clients to put the baby down flat and then slowly lift the baby. So a lot of people will say, my baby was in bed, they were crying, I went in and I picked them up and they did a big burp. Well, that big burp's not why they were crying. The big burp is because you've moved them from lying down to up, and as you've moved them from lying down to up, that bubbles have moved from that corner bubbly bit to and come up through the tube. So when I get my clients to put the baby down flat and then slowly lift the baby up, and as they slowly lift the baby up, the air moves, and then the air will come up the little pipe, the esophagus. I think there's a thing called wobbly baby, or we'll put a link to it at the end of this podcast. We'll put a link to a really good video a woman does on, I think, the wobbly baby it's called, and it teaches you about the stomach and the gas. So I over the years, people have said this doesn't affect, that doesn't affect. We come back to the same thing. People come to me with a baby that's unsettled and crying with colic. So the second topic in this book here is colic, and the second in the chapter, and we'll talk about that now as well. So people come to me with a baby with colic. Now, what is colic? Colic is the name given to a baby who cries for a very long time at night time, maybe from 6 till 8 o'clock or 7 till 10 or 11 o'clock, and they cry and cry and cry and cry, and nothing will settle them, right? That's what we give the name colic to. Colic is babies crying uncontrollably. Now, somebody will come to me with a baby where they say the baby has colic and is crying uncontrollably, and I will teach them to breastfeed their baby and take their baby off every 3 minutes and wind their baby, and then when they're getting a burp up, and keep burping until the burp comes up, and then when you're getting them up when your baby's happy and settled and the crying colic has disappeared, you can start doing 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and if the colic doesn't come back, that's good, but if it comes back, go back to the 4 minutes. Now, that's breastfeeding every 3 minutes. Bottle feeding, it's off after every 30 mils. Now, if you've got a very hungry baby and you're breastfeeding them or you're bottle feeding them, and you take them off to burp them, they're going to cry. But you are better to have a crying baby for that short amount of time during the feed than a baby crying for an hour or 2 or 3 hours when you are exhausted at the end of the day, right? So when people come to me with this, I get them to burp the baby more. I believe you get this build-up of wind at 7 o'clock in the morning, and if you don't get it all out, there's more wind by 11 o'clock, and if you don't get it all out, there's more wind by the 3 o'clock feed, and so on. And by 7 o'clock at night, the tummy is so full of wind that the baby is starving hungry, but there isn't enough room for food. Now, if winding wasn't needed, then why would it fix the babies? And we've got the Save Our Sleep support group, and we keep telling people, if you come, the support group, I used to charge for the support group. I used to charge a fee to give my advice. Now, if you come to the website and you purchase the Save Our Sleep bedding, because that's the route, and we're going to do a special bonus episode called the Bedding Guide. That's the foundation. If you have the correct bedding, then the routines should work. So you come to the website, you purchase all the correct bedding, and free with the bedding, like servicing of a car, you get the free support group.
Which is the best group in the whole wide world.
Okay, so you've got your free support group where we give you complimentary advice. Women, mums in there, including yourself, tell people, try burping the baby, and they do, and they go from having an unsettled baby to having a happy baby. So how can people say you do not need to wind? I don't understand. So back to winding, the best way to do it is to have your baby flat. I kind of hold the baby over my hands and tap the back. There is a video on YouTube, Tizzie winding a baby.
Oh, great.
We'll link to it. You wind, and then I will lift the baby up, and when you lift the baby up and then sit them upright, the burp normally comes out. And I don't give up, or lie them down over your knees, tap their back, and then lift them up. How do you wind twins if you're feeding them at the same time?
Honestly, it was such a blur. I don't remember it, but I do remember Luke and I, any parent that we ran into in the street, we would just beg them, when do we stop winding? Because it just felt like a never-ending task of feeding and winding these babies. It was tricky.
And a couple of it would be. I can't imagine how you would do two at once, because some mums tandem feed. Like my sister-in-law used my routines from day one. She had twins. She carried them full term. She breastfed them both totally. Amazing. And she totally. And then people say, "Oh, you can't follow Tizzie's breastfeeding advice because the breastfeeding, your milk will dry up." Oh, she is a miracle worker.
Oh,
she breastfed both her babies from day one in hospital. They didn't go in special care. following my advice. I mean, and I'm just so proud of her. And I think she just proved that the routines work.
Yeah.
And she breastfed them both like till really late, like 18 months or something. No
Yeah.
formula.
Yeah.
She gave them no formula. Well, not that I'm not against formula, but she didn't want to give them formula. And I think she gave them no formula as far as I remember.
Fantastic.
So it just, and it was really good. I'm really proud of her for doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Nathan's brother's wife had twins. I never got twins, but she got twins. So another quick topics just while we're on the same topic, hiccups. So I think hiccups, babies don't worry about hiccups. Kieran calls them haircups. He's 7 and he still calls them haircups, and I can't correct him because I love it. Mummy, I've got haircups. And he gets a bit of reflux and he calls it haircups. Mummy, the haircups were hurting me. But hiccups don't seem to do babies any harm. All babies get them. I think it's a sign that they're full.
Yeah, okay.
So, they get them in the womb. You should time when they get them in the womb and see if they get them when they're out. That would be a good thing. You could do everything I wanted to do. And then the other one is positing and vomiting. So if you don't wind a baby, this is the other thing about winding. If you don't wind a baby, the wind can come up so fast that it just throws all of the milk up ahead of the wind, and that can be a projectile vomit or a little vomit, and that can be from not winding your baby enough. You have all babies. Okay, so with babies, it's normal for a baby to feed. Their esophagus, there's a little bit that's not closed over with babies. It's normal for your babies to bring up a little bit of milk. That's normal. They're not made the same way as us. That's not closed over. Little bit of milk is normal. You get my burpers to put it under their head in their cot. I get annoyed with bedding, like sheet sets that have got pillowcases, because you're not supposed to put a pillow in the cot, and then you can't put the pillow slip in because it's got a hole in it and the baby could put it over their head when they're older, or if they get attached to it, it can be a problem. So I've just got like fronts of pillowcases called burpers. You put them in the cot. Little posits are normal and expected. If you are breast or bottle feeding your baby and you're getting a lot of projectile vomits, which is not common, but 1 in 300 babies will overeat and projectile vomit. I would try cutting the time back of the feed, like cut back how much you're feeding them, or cut back the amount you're giving them in their bottle, which contradicts the fact that I say when you're bottle feeding a baby, always, one, make sure the milk is really hot, because hot milk, someone said to me recently, the reason for it is cold milk cools their whole body temperature down. If your baby is a certain temperature and then you put in 200 mils of room temperature milk at 20 degrees, you're going to cool them right down. They become unsettled. They need warm milk, body temperature milk.
Apparently adults should only drink warm drinks as
Water as well.
Yes.
So warm milk. And then if they are, and I say always leave 30 mils of express breast milk or formula, always leave 1 ounce of express breast milk or formula in the bottle at the end of the feed. Not if they are projectile vomiting. Then we need to cut it back and see if that helps. If it doesn't help, you need to seek medical advice. If they're constantly projectile vomiting at feeds, you need to seek medical advice. Right. I think that's enough for the topic of sleep and settling for today, because I think we will take a reader's question.
Yep, definitely.
And let's take the reader's question.
So this week's question, I've got this on my phone, is from Tara. So an interesting one. You could almost probably do a whole episode on this one, Tizzie. It's from Tara. And she says, I'd love to do a discussion around adapting routines for school runs. So the official question is, what's some advice on adapting the routine to fit in with school runs? How do I take into consideration the accidental naps that happen in the car?
So we could do a whole subject on this, Tara. Now, Tara, I don't know if you're watching this, but don't forget to claim your $20 Save Our Sleep gift voucher, because we've answered your question on the podcast. So, and the way you get to put your question on the podcast is to join the support group, and the way you get to join the support group is to be using the Save Our Sleep bedding, not the book, the bedding. Anyway, so Tara, could be a whole episode in the answer. I had Kieran when Cillian was in prep, so I understand also from a mum's point of view, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not the easiest question to answer, because I lived in Ocean Grove and the boys went to school in Geelong. So that was a 45-minute car journey every morning. So it's not, that simple to answer. So I used to breastfeed Kieran at 7 o'clock, then do the whole kids thing, then get in the car at like 7:45. When he was on solids, I would have to feed him solids at school late. I would sit in the car and feed him the solids at the school in the car.
Sure.
If you lived 5 minutes walk from home, it would be totally different. I would put the baby in the pram, be a little bit mean, don't put all the bedding on. Make sure
Sure,
baby's
yeah.
warm enough, but not
Yeah,
cozy.
of
Like
course.
warm enough to not get freezing cold if it's a
Yeah.
cold place,
Yeah.
or in the correct bedding to not get scalding hot if you're in a hot climate. And you walk to school, it depends, you see, on the time. I would be inclined to walk earlier and then let your kids have a little bit of a play in the
Yes.
playground before school,
Yeah.
so that your baby is less likely to fall asleep. Again, it depends on the age of the baby. So
many
let's say
factors.
we're talking about let's say an 8-week-old baby. So you're going to feed the baby at 7 o'clock in the morning and you're going to put the baby down to sleep at 8:45, yeah? So maybe you're actually better to get out the door if you possibly can, which normally you're up early with little kids anyhow, by 8:15 and then get to school and then have a play at the playground. And then at 9:15 at baby's sleep time, actually baby's 8 weeks, put the baby in the sleeping bag, put the baby in the wrap, put all the stuff on and walk home and then transfer baby into the cot. It's a really good habit to get into, to transfer baby into the cot. Lots of people don't. And it's actually a really, really good habit to get into. Your baby starts to learn, oh, I've been moved into the cot, I just need to go back to sleep, you know? And if you do it consistently,
Yeah.
they learn it
Yeah.
and they learn to transfer quite easily and they rouse a little bit and they go back to sleep. If it's not a good idea to bring them into the house in car seats, I find it very difficult watching mums with capsules on the car. I understand why they did it. The baby's asleep in the car. You take the capsule out, you put the capsule on the buggy wheels, you then go around a shopping centre or you come home. I always move my babies and I think it makes them into a really good sleeper. I think if you can move your baby from day one, from the car seat into a flat pram when you're about to walk into school, and the more you can move them, the better they learn at
Sure,
moving.
yeah.
Now, you might want to adjust your baby to a 6 to 6 routine to fit in with the school run. If your baby's on solids, you might want to get to school and do if you had a long journey like me and give the solids at school. You might want to give the solids at home and then go to school. You know, it depends.
Yeah.
In the afternoon, I used to always get to school, pick the kids up, do that breastfeed a bit late and sit at the playground at school. Coronavirus has changed lots of schools. Our school isn't that nice anymore.
Right.
We used to love going to school, sitting in the playground
play.
after school. The
Yeah.
mums would chat to you. And then the whole coronavirus and no mums went there. There was no one at the playgrounds. I used to give the solids in the school library. Most schools have a library. And I used to go and sit in the library and give solids in the library.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so...
yeah. So
look,
think outside the box. And
it's not a totally
Yeah.
easy question to
No.
answer. I hope that helps a
yeah.
bit. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So let's say baby does fall asleep. So let's say you have got a car journey and you've tried your best to keep baby awake and baby has fallen asleep outside sleep time. The trick is, let's say we're talking now about a 10-week-old baby and sleep time's 9 o'clock and you have to drive to school and you're driving home from school at 8:30. And at 8:30, you notice the baby's fallen asleep for 10 minutes. Yep. I would keep baby up for 20 minutes when you get home. So instead of putting baby to bed,
Yep.
so you're not going to
So-
get home and transfer the
Okay,
baby
you
because then
wake
you've
baby up.
shifted the sleep time.
Okay.
You're going to get home and wake baby up
Yes.
and then come into the house and keep baby up. And I would keep baby up for 20 minutes. So instead of going to bed at 9 o'clock, go to bed at 20 past 9.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. That's really handy.
Yes.
And then I think the other thing to remember, especially for your really young babies, is that this is only going to be weeks again. You know,
Yes.
you're in that mindset and you feel like, oh, stress, it's going to last forever. But it's only weeks before that routine's going to change
And then it
anyway.
changes. Then you get it fixed and then the
yes.
babies all change
Yeah,
again.
and
anyhow.
it's going to happen regardless, and there is no right or wrong answer because life does happen and you are going to have to make things move a little bit here and there. But just remember, it's for a short period of time. You will all survive.
And also, another good thing to point out is it's really important for mums to get out. It's really important for baby to have at least one good sleep at home.
Yes.
Pick the sleep that's going to be the good at home sleep. See, like, can you get dad or someone to drop the kids off at school, or can they go into before school care or something and have the morning sleep at home or have the afternoon sleep at home? But pick one good sleep to have at home. The other thing you can do is You could wake baby up early for the morning sleep so that you could put them down earlier for the afternoon sleep to then be able to get them up to go on the school run.
Right.
You just change stuff,
Yeah,
but
just
it's
a little-
important for mums to get out.
Yes.
If you can get your baby from day one, sleeping in the pram, having good solid sleeps and resettling in the pram, and get out for one sleep a day, that's really important. And it's really important for babies to sleep outside in the fresh air. It's really important for mum to be outside in the fresh air. It's really important for mum to socialise. It's just it ticks the boxes for everyone.
Yeah.
So,
Get out
guys, that is it for episode 8.
Yay.
We would love you to give us stars, 1 star, 5 stars. We did one on co-sleeping. We would love you to pass it on to your not such Tizzie fan parents to see what they think of co-sleeping. As we've said before, we'd love other opinions. So if someone is the expert in how to co-sleep safely, please come on. Ask us if you can come on.
Yeah, we'd
anyway,
love to
but
get
we
some
need you to rate us, give us
Yes.
stars,
Subscribe. Please.
and leave feedback.
Yes,
Rate us.
absolutely. Get in touch with
And-
us
but
with anything.
on the
that you
different
might
podcast channels,
Yes,
you
yes.
can leave feedback.
Please
and
do
all of
that.
these are also
5
on
stars only,
YouTube.
please.
So no, there's 1 stars as well,
Yeah,
but
of
that's
course there
okay.
is. We're only asking for 5 stars, okay?
I like the one. I actually read some of the 1 stars more,
course you
because
do.
people
Of course you do.
say stuff.
We
And there
all
was
do.
one lady saying the other day that she really liked the fact that we'd given really good co-sleeping advice. So, or that we didn't say it was the same as Sid. So,
Yeah.
look, we would love you to rate us. Also, if you've purchased from Save Our Sleep, can you go to Google Reviews and give us some reviews?
Yep.
Because you know what happens in life? It's only the people who are grumpy and have something bad to say that give
find
reviews.
the time to write a review.
Yeah, and there's some beautiful reviews. Thank you for the beautiful reviews. There are so many beautiful reviews. But yes, we love reviews. We love stars. We will catch you in episode. Oh, now we have on. I forgot to say earlier. We have the bonus episode, the bedding guide. We didn't want to bore you with a full episode on the bedding guide, so go back and look. A few weeks ago we uploaded the bedding guide. Really important that you have a look. And it doesn't just talk about the bedding guide, it talks about where it came from, which I think will really interest some of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's
We'll see you next week,
see you
everyone.
next
Take
week.
care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Save Our Sleep podcast, brought to you by the International Baby Whisperer Proprietary Limited. You will find more information about the Save Our Sleep philosophy, product support, and how to watch the mini clips that accompany this podcast at saveoursleep.com. You may find the Save Our Sleep social media accounts by searching Tizzie Hall on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for all my how-to videos and to watch the podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate the podcast and share it with your friends. I would like to thank Zoe Starr for co-hosting, Ben at Fundamental Studios Geelong for the amazing podcast recording room, Nick Dale at Primer Films for this production, and most of all, you, the listeners. Without you, there would be no reason for this podcast. Please enjoy, stay safe, and Zoe and I will look forward to chatting with you again next week.